Hey guys, welcome to Madoka Theory Friday. In today's video, I'm gonna be taking on a request from a viewer. They basically say here, dude, this is your chance to make a Madoka theory about which Madoka Magica character would win Squid Games. I've only seen a bit of Squid Game, but I was fascinated by its themes and how they could apply to Madoka Magica characters. So this video is more about a psychological crossover than a direct reference. Before we get into what Madoka character would win in Squid Game, let me first give a brief explanation about what Squid Game is in case you're living under a rock. So Squid Game is basically a South Korean survival drama series that's on Netflix that has honestly become like a global sensation. Like seriously, they talk about this at work all the time. And my friend is like totally obsessed with it as well. But the premise revolves around a mysterious competition where 456 financially desperate contestants are invited to play a series of children's games. Think something like, I don't know, red light, green light, any sort of game along those lines. They basically do this for a massive cash prize. However, the twist is that if you lose, you die. If you're somebody who likes survival anime, I want to say something like Mirai Nikki or Danganronpa, or even Madoka Magica to a certain extent, because when you think about it, Madoka Magica is kind of like its own version of Squid Game, because when you become a magical girl, you basically get entered in a survival game where girls have to fight and kill each other for the sake of their wishes, and you pretty much have a situation where at the end of the series, Madoka ends up becoming the winner because of everything that happened. Another thing I'll mention is with Squid Game, the games themselves start off pretty simple but progressively become more brutal and psychologically demanding. And it kind of forces players to make difficult moral decisions, basically something like betraying each other and fighting for survival. And the show also tends to explore themes of desperation, greed, human nature, and the brutality of capitalist systems. Now, on to the real question of the video. Which Madoka character would survive in Squid Game? So before we talk about what character would survive, let's talk about which characters would get eliminated first. So in typical Madoka Magica fashion, we have to go with the most tragic aspect of this first. Who would die first? My pick would probably be Sayaka Miki. She would probably be early elimination 101. Now, I just want to mention that I love Sayaka, but based on the kind of character that Sayaka is in the original anime, she would not survive long. I mean, we all have to remember that Sayaka's downfall in Madoka Magica is basically due to her idealistic attitude and nature. So she's the kind of person who believes in justice and refuses to betray her morals even when it destroys her. This is one of the reasons why she is unable to really fight back when it comes to Hitomi, because she was conflicted. She loved Hitomi. Hitomi was her friend, even though this whole thing with Kyosuke was kind of tearing her apart and eating her alive. She still had this idealistic hero of justice who under no circumstances would ever dare to do anything to her friend. That's why the thought of her wishing for Hitomi to not be alive kind of destroyed her on the inside, because whether she realized it or not, in that moment Sayaka was going up against her own morals, and that's why it tore her up inside. She literally is a hero of justice. That's why she loved Mami. So even just the idea of betraying her morals and her values destroy her, and you put Sayaka in a game which is basically this crazy survival that really highlights human nature, greed, brutality. It's basically everybody out for themselves. So Sayaka, a person who is all about saving people, helping people, and connecting with them, she would not be able to survive a game like this. It would chew her up and spit her out, like Charlotte did to Mami when you think about it. Because of the fact that she has this sort of attitude and she believes in justice and refuses to betray her morals, even when it destroys her, in Squid Game, Sayaka would get completely killed almost immediately. She'd likely try to protect other players, refused to form strategic alliances because, let's face it, Sayaka saw Homura as being a girl who was a greedy, fighting for territory type magical girl, even though she was wrong. And she refused to work with Homura in pretty much every way possible. So there's no way in heck she'd be able to work with anybody who'd be playing Squid Game based on the nature of the games themselves. Sayaka would likely try to protect other players. She would refuse to form strategic alliances. She may even sacrifice herself for a friend if somebody was playing with her. She'd also get too emotionally invested in the suffering of others around her, which is a huge liability in a game where survival requires ruthless pragmatism. So because of that, Sayaka would pretty much be the first person to be eliminated. Now, the second person that would be eliminated, which would probably shock a lot of people, would be Madoka Kaname. Now, you might be thinking, why the heck would you choose Madoka to be the second eliminated, considering that she basically survived the magical girl equivalent of Squid Game, because she survived in the Madoka Magica anime originally. Unlike Sayaka, Madoka might survive the first few games due to sheer luck and the fact that others would want to protect her, aka Sayaka. If all the magical girls entered, I could see Sayaka sacrificing herself for the sake of making sure that Madoka managed to survive. At the very least, I could see Madoka lasting longer than Sayaka by sheer luck and maybe somebody wanting to protect her because she's so innocent, cute, and sweet. But once things become brutal, once we get to the later half of the game, Madoka would not last long. She's basically too kind, and she's too trusting, and she's too unwilling to harm others. There's a scene in Madoka where she kills Mami, and you could literally tell that on the inside it actually destroyed her. She cries so much. I mean, ultimately this partly happens because of finding out the whole magical girl system of witches as to why this happens, but for the most part, Madoka's too kind and she's too trusting, and I feel like Madoka would have a very difficult time harming others. It's not like in the Madoka Magica anime where she's able to attack witches. We're talking about actual people. If Madoka had to fight actual people, I honestly cannot see her doing something like this unless maybe she was trying to protect something else, like another person. But for the most part, in a normal situation, Madoka would not be able to physically attack anybody. She would definitely hesitate in a lot of the games that would take place, especially the ones that require deception or betrayal, which Madoka would not be able to do under any circumstances. Unless Homura protects her after Sayaka does, which would be pretty likely, she would probably die when the competition starts to dwindle down. So there's technically a possibility that with the potential of Sayaka and Homura protecting Madoka, she could potentially make it further, but I cannot see her winning the whole thing. It's just more likely because of her personality. Also, I actually have a random question. So this whole idea of Sayaka being eliminated first is mostly based on the version of Sayaka that exists within the original anime. However, what do you guys think about Rebellion Sayaka? Do you think that Rebellion Sayaka would be able to do better than the original version of Sayaka? I want you to tell me your thoughts in the comments below about if the Rebellion post anime version of Sayaka would be able to do well than her original self, and if so, why? Give me some examples and give me your theory about that. Now, moving on, Mami Tomoe would probably be the third magical girl to die. Yeah, so basically she would definitely outlive Sayaka and Madoka. Now, the thing about Mami is Mami has the skills and intelligence to go far. I would say even close to the final round. I would say Mami's ultimate weakness is probably going to be her overconfidence. Mami sees herself as a mentor and leader, and that would make her a massive target. Imagine somebody trying to stroke Mami's ego for the sake of giving her this false sense of security. Oh, Mami, you're so wonderful and great, and then they just kind of stab her in the back. I could just totally see this happening. I mean, it would make a lot of sense, because Mami is a wonderful person, but she's also kind of naive, and she's also pretty trusting, and in a game like Squid Game, this would be exploited very easily. And the other thing about Mami is she tries to be the strong, noble leader. I could see Mami attempting to be like a strong, noble leader of an alliance, and then she basically gets betrayed when she least expected and gets eliminated when she's no longer useful to someone. I mean, we've already seen her die early due to due to a misguided situation. Charlotte. Head munchies. The head munchie girl. Speaking of the head munchie girl, I'm going to get to her in just a moment. Believe it or not, I actually think that Charlotte, aka Nagisa, would probably last longer than most of the girls. So we basically talked about what girls would be eliminated the earliest, which would be Sayaka, Madoka, and Mami. Now we have to go to the part of who would last a long time. Now this is actually kind of fun to think about. So first up we have Kyoko Sakura. So the thing about Kyoko is Kyoko has street smarts and she knows how to manipulate people pretty well. I mean, her whole magical ability before she kind of, resents her wish when it came to her father was the ability to create illusions of herself in order to throw off her opponents and witches. And besides, her whole wish allowed her father to manipulate the people around them to listen to his preaching. So yeah, of course Kyoko knows how to manipulate people. And she also has zero problems betraying others. When you think about it, Squid Game is perfect for somebody like Kyoko's personality. So Kyoko would definitely betray others if needed. I feel like Kyoko would do extremely well in Squid Games, especially in psychological challenges where deception is key. However, her recklessness might catch up to her. I feel like Kyoko is also the type that would get backstabbed, or she might make some kind of miscalculation in a high stakes game. I could probably see Kyoko being the next one to be eliminated. Now, one of the girls who would probably last the longest, and I know this is going to shock some people, but I would say probably Nagisa, aka Bebe. Now whether or not Nagisa can survive long depends on which version of Nagisa we're talking about. If it's Bebe, the witch form, then she's a chaotic, unpredictable force that might throw off the other players. I mean, she's like this little cute voodoo doll thing that can transform into this monstrous chomping earthworm thing, and that can just go num num on your head. Honestly, if it's human Nagisa, then I would say Nagisa's cute and cunning enough to manipulate people while appearing completely harmless. To be honest, Nagisa would be my personal choice to be the Squid Game winner, or at the very least, she would be the most fun to sort of watch in this kind of scenario. However, due to her small stature and childlike nature, others might see her as an easy target and they may try to eliminate her early, but I could really see Nagisa getting down to like the final round. Now, even though my money would be on Nagisa, I think the character who would probably be the most likely to win would be Homura. In most situations, she would probably come out on top. Now, if you want to know why, she's intelligent, she's highly analytical, she's emotionally detached enough to betray others when necessary, unless it was Madoka. Though we've seen in Rebellion that given the right circumstances, she might betray Madoka if she convinced herself that she was doing it for Madoka's sake. Homura also knows how to play the long game. She knows how to adapt to rules and manipulate others. I mean, this is the girl who pretty much had to travel 100 timelines because she had this long-term plan of protecting Madoka. This girl is willing to put herself through 100 timelines of just suffering and brutality just for the sake of seeing her ultimate goal. So this is a girl who definitely knows how to play the long game. She's also a master strategist who learns from past mistakes when you really think about it. Well, I would say with the exception of teamwork. This might be the only thing that might mess up Homura, is that she's not the best when it comes to working together with others. So this could be a little bit of a handicap, but I just feel like Homura has enough resilience to probably overcome something like this. And I feel like even without time travel being a factor, Homura is cold and calculated in her thinking. I could see her totally forming, like a temporary alliance and using others when necessary and then discarding them when they're no longer useful. And if someone betrayed her, she'd already have plans in place to kind of karate chop them to death probably. By the final games, I could see Homura outwit and outlast everyone else, securing the prize without hesitation. There's no question, Homura Akemi is probably probably the most likely person who would realistically win Squid Game. I still would probably go with Nagisa because it's more fun. Anyway, if the Madoka Magica cast were in Squid Game, it would come down to probably something like a Kyoko versus Homura versus Nagisa battle royal in the final rounds. However, as we've talked about, Homura is more strategic and less emotionally impulsive, so she would be the one to walk away alive versus Kyoko and Nagisa. So yeah, Homura Kimi is the one I would pick to be the Squid Game champion. But what do you think? Would any other characters have a chance, or is Homura's victory inevitable? Let me know. Who do you think would win the Squid Games? Let me know in the comments below. Bye-bye.